Appreciate you joining me. It is October 9th. Our reading today comes from the book of Mark. I want to talk about Herod today. Mark chapter 6 is where we are, and we see what happened to John the Baptist. Herod had sent and laid hold of John and bound him in prison for the sake of Herodias, there in verse 17, his brother Philip's wife, for he had married her. Because John had said to Herod, "It is not lawful for you to have your brother's wife." Therefore Herodias held it against him and wanted to kill him, but she could not. You ever notice that before? That before Herod has John killed, it's Herodias who wants him dead. And you probably have noticed that, because of course it's going to be the daughter, it's going to be Salome who dances, and then Herod says what he says later on in the account. Herod says, verse 23, "Whatever you ask me, I will give you. I will give you up to half my kingdom." And of course she goes to his mother, and mother asks for John the Baptist's head on a plate. But Herodias has wanted to kill John ever since John said, "It's not lawful. It's not lawful for you two to be married." A lot of folks, of course, would have ignored that for any number of bad reasons. But I wanted you to look at verse 20. And just go through and just dwell for a moment on each one. For Herod feared John. And it's just an interesting thing that he feared John. And the reason he feared John is because he knew that he was a just and a holy man. He feared him. He knew that he was just and holy. He knew it. What a sad thing. He's in prison, but he knows that frankly, he knows that what he's saying is right. And yet he's in prison. But even as he's in prison, remember, Herodias wants him dead, and Herod protected him. Verse 20. He protected John the Baptist. Herodias wanted him dead. Look at exactly how it says it. Verse 19, "Therefore Herodias held it against him and wanted to kill him, but she could not." Why could she not? Because Herod prevented it. He feared John. He knew that he was a just and a holy man, and he protected him. And when he heard him, he did many things and heard him gladly. I think it's interesting, and the first and the third part of that sentence are fairly straightforward. And when he heard him. So he's coming to John and listening to him. And he heard him gladly. It's that middle one, and he did many things. I don't know what all's included in that. But he is somehow responding. He's not putting away his wife. He's not doing that. But he's doing many things. He's protecting John, and he's coming and he's listening to him. And he does many things, and he hears them gladly. I think we can put Herod in the same category as others. Solomon, whose wives turned his heart away from the Lord. Ahab, who was stirred up by Jezebel. I think we can say the same thing about Herod. On some level, he's responding to what John is saying, and he knows he's a just and holy man, and he fears him. And he's doing many things, but he's listening, and he heard him gladly. And then, of course, he gives the banquet. Now, of course, the sad thing about all this is all of this is being said, this is being recorded after the fact. So let's back up and read, and there's a reason we started in verse 17. Because this is actually, let's read the first 3 verses. "Now Herod heard of him," talking about Jesus. "Now King Herod heard of him, for his name had become well known, and he said, 'John the Baptist is risen from the dead.'" See, that's already happened. So he says, John the Baptist is risen from the dead, and therefore these powers are at work in him. Others said it is Elijah, and others said it is the prophet, or like one of the prophets. But when Herod heard, he said, This is John whom I beheaded. He has been raised from the dead. And he's terrified. He feared him before. He's still afraid. He knows he knew that he was just and holy. He knew he was telling the truth. He knew he was telling the truth. And yet, because he gives this party on his birthday, and he makes this oath in front of all of his friends, right, all the noblemen that he gives the dinner for, and he's exceedingly sorry, it says in that account, and it's down in verse 26, I guess I could put it up there. She comes in, I want you to give me the head of John the Baptist on a platter, and the king was exceedingly sorry. And once he's dead, he's still a mess. He's still a mess. He's afraid. And you know what? He should be afraid, frankly. Because no, John the Baptist has not come back. But there's a greater than John the Baptist there now. And that's the Son of God. So he should be afraid. So it's an interesting account. Interesting fellow when you really think about it. Appreciate you. Hope you have a good day. Join us tomorrow for another brief look into God's Word.